Hey guys, welcome back. This is Library of Orthanc, LOTR TCG, back with another all-foil deck video. So today, have a exciting deck for you. This is actually another World Championship winning deck. This is from Worlds 2003, and this is what is called Towers Standard. So basically, it was the standard format. And at the time, the first 6 sets had been released. So Fellowship block consisted of the first Worlds, and then the second Worlds had added on Towers block. So basically, this is everything from Fellowship block and Towers block is considered Towers Standard. It's a little confusing because terminology-wise, if you just say Towers, that refers to Towers block. And obviously this is not Towers block, this is Towers Standard, meaning the first 6 sets were legal. And obviously that's all that was released at the time in 2003 when this Worlds tournament was held. So this is Michael Dalton's World Championship winning deck, and it is a Rohan deck. So let's go ahead and check it out. So the first we have here is our ring bearer, is Frodo the Tired Traveler. I love this in foil. This looks really nice. And his effect is play a ring-bound companion to remove a burden. So again, at this point in time, we didn't have a lot of options for Frodo, so something even as small incremental as, removing a burden is good enough to play. So that's what we're doing here, is playing Frodo Tired Traveler. Then, of course, in Towers, there's really no other way to go other than playing the One Ring Answer to All Riddles. Again, this is one of the top, most beautiful foil cards in the game, without a doubt. It's just a perennial favorite of players and collectors, just a absolute beautiful card. But as far as the gameplay function goes, the key parts here is it does add 2 to Frodo's vitality. And when you're wearing this particular ring, you get strength +2. So even though it doesn't say +2 there, while wearing it, you get strength +2. So you have to actually put it on to get that bonus. And how you put it on is during a skirmish, you add a burden to wear it. And then it does the same normal conversion of wounds into burdens when you're wearing it. So it's a very strong ring, very good for this era in the game. And like I said, just one of the most beautiful foils ever created. Then as far as your Fellowship, we do have to actually start with the Elite Rider. While he is in your starting Fellowship, his Twilight cost is -1. So he, instead of 3, actually only costs 2. And why I say we play him first is because our next Fellowship final person is Eomer, the 3rd Marshal of Riddermark, very well-known card. But in order for this, you have to spot a Rohan man to make Eomer's cost -1. So basically, these guys total 6, but together they only cost 4. So fantastic starting Fellowship. And again, this Eomer, just an absolute beast of a card gameplay-wise, and an absolute beautiful foil, the way they accent all the armor on there. So effect-wise, just to reiterate these, this guy just gets strength +2 for skirmishing a wounded minion, which you'll see synergizes very well with the horses. And then Eomer gets strength +2 for each wound on each minion he is skirmishing. So it's a really souped-up version of this, where he actually gets +2 for every single wound, not just one time. Comparing to the Elite Rider. So that is your starting Fellowship, is Eomer, the Elite Rider, and Frodo, the Tired Traveler. So very nice start for that point in the game. So there's our starting Fellowship. Then in terms of our companions, we do have a couple more Rohan companions. One is Eowyn, the Lady of Rohan. This is very good, primarily to stop people from dying from wounds, whether that's hate or Enkea, obviously is very common. Because as a response, if an unbound companion is about to take a wound, exert Eowyn and add 1 to prevent the wound. So you kind of just keep her on the sidelines, and then if someone else gets wounded, you wound her in their place. So she's very good for protecting your Fellowship. Then we have Hrethel. the Rider of Rohan. He's kind of your third person you look to for riding the horses as needed. To play him, you have to spot a man, and you can heal him to make him strength +3, limit +3, meaning you can only do that once per skirmish phase to have it have an effect. But basically, he can be a 9 power, but he then doesn't kind of get the extra damage on the minion. Basically, how it would interact with the horse is the horse would create the wound, you would remove the wound, making Hrethel a 9 strength, but then he'd still only do 1 damage to the minion because you had to remove, you had to heal the minion to get that strength bonus. So he's okay, definitely a decent guy to have in the third rider slot. So then, again, because this deck is almost entirely legal in Towers Standard, I should have said, where if you were, in Towers Block, if you were just playing Towers Block, it'd be very close to legal, other than these next 3 cards. But because we are playing Towers Standard, meaning every card in Fellowship is legal, then there are a couple splash companions that we want to have in our deck. The first of which is one of my all-time favorites again, Legolas the Greenleaf. Again, just one of the most beautiful foils in the game, and just a great card to just splash as a companion, especially in a deck that has synergy with wounding. Obviously, Legolas can come down in the archery phase and create some wounds, and then with Eomer, you can get some really nice power bonuses off that, or you can just take out minions as needed. That's another thing Legolas is obviously great for, is just sniping a minion completely off the table. So you guys know Legolas Greenleaf, great card even to splash. So Legolas is our first splash companion, just 1 copy. Our second splash companion is Aragorn, Ranger of the North. Again, this is kind of just like a showcase of like some of the beautiful Fellowship foils. Aragorn, why he's so good is for Swarm in particular. He can exert himself to make himself Defender +1. Obviously, you can do that 3 times. And so then Aragorn can just go down in a blaze of fire there with 4 minions on him and just take himself out. And so that's really helpful to protect your ring bearer from Swarm. And other than that, again, just a decent splash companion to use as needed. If you're playing against someone who has heavy wounding minions too that have damage +1, again, just put a couple of those on Aragorn and he really just soaks up a ton of wounds. So anyone who has not just Swarm, but anyone who just has some big minions that you need to just dogpile on Aragorn and kill him, that's what he's here for in this deck. And finally, similar concept to the Aragorn I just showed you, is Sam the Proper Poet. He can exert twice to make himself Defender +1. So same concept there, where he can eat some big minions. But then also, of course, because he's Sam, he always has the alternate function of becoming your ring bearer if you absolutely need him to. So again, just another fantastic splash companion. So that was these are all the cards from the Fellowship block that we're playing, but it really rounds out the suite of the Rohan companions nicely, because these 3 guys are going to be so much better than just random Rohan companion, whatever you'd have to be able to play once you've already used up really the best 4 that are out there. So that is our companions. Then we do have 2 allies, and again, allies are pretty nice for Rohan. We have Hlafwine, and his effect is exert to make a Rohan man strength +2. And these guys are home 4, which is relevant in the Towers site path, so you can have them skirmish at site 4 and sacrifice themselves. And then we have Leold, the Westfold herdsman, and very similar, exert him to make a mounted companion strength +2. So the difference there is the person on this has to be mounted, but they don't necessarily have to be Rohan, although I think usually they would be. And then this guy just requires a Rohan. So these 2 guys are very similar with slightly different conditions for being able to use their ability. So Leold and Hlafwine. Looks like some foil potatoes or bread there or something. That guy's got the foil axe. That kind of looks cooler. So that is our allies. Then getting into our possessions, this deck is very possession heavy. Our first and foremost absolute beauty of a card is the Firefoot. So Firefoot is Eomer's steed. And so bearer must be a man, it's always going to be Eomer. And if it is Eomer, he becomes defender +1. So that's where that part about the each wound on each minion becomes relevant, because you can actually be skirmishing more than one minion, and then you get the +2 for each wound on each minion. And then obviously with this being a horse, it has the standard horse effect of at the start of each skirmish, each minion bearer skirmishes must exert. That's very strong. I would say Dunland is the one culture that typically will get around that, just because they can't exert because they're all one vitality. But pretty much every other culture, especially in this era of the game, will be subject to that exertion. So that's really the first thing you're looking to put together is Eomer with Firefoot. And then the final piece of that combo, I'll just go ahead and show you, is Eomer's Spear. That makes Eomer damage +2, which is absolutely insane, meaning he'll do 3 wounds to a minion, and he's probably already putting 1 wound on them with this. So he's doing 4 wounds to a minion then for winning a skirmish. So just no one fighting this guy ever lives to tell about it. Again, unless you're doing something weird with a defender +1 and trying to take on 2 huge minions and just take 1 wound off Eomer with being a defender +1. But anytime he's going one-on-one and kills and fights someone, that person dies. And I didn't realize this makes 1, 2, 3 up here. That's kind of cool. Never noticed that. But yeah, that's the play you're looking for, is Eomer Firefoot, Eomer Spear. And that's, you'll see the card Simbelmyne, anyone who's familiar with that. That's how you set that up. Then in terms of our other horses and spears, we do have Brego, who is a fantastic card, because this is really nice because all you have to do is spot a Rohan man to play him. So it doesn't have, the bearer doesn't have to be a Rohan man. It can be a man, elf, or wizard. So you can even like play this on Legolas and heal him, or play it on Aragorn and heal him. So you can have some nice nice healing effects there for the enter the battlefield trigger on that. And then the other thing, of course, it does have the standard skirmish effect where it exerts the minion it's skirmishing. So that's a very nice card to have. And always remember the versatility of, you don't just have to slam that on your Rohan guy. You can heal one of your other people and then move it over to your Rohan guy. You know, you have to pay the cost twice if you're going to move it, but that's well worth it to get an extra wound using Legolas, something of that nature. Then you have the Rider's Mount. That's kind of the standard horse, and all it does is just 1 cost and does the exertion. Just a very generic horse effect. So, but again, just beautiful foils on these. Then we've got a couple Rider's Spears. So these, bearer must be a man, and if bearer is mounted, he is damage +1. So again, we're looking to create little mini Eomers with the Elite Rider, with this, as well as with Hrethel with this. And then again, each of those guys can have a horse too. That's why we have the extra horses. So in theory, you can have 3 guys with horses and spears. But usually if you got 2 going, that's fine. And you've kind of just got the extra. So you do have 2 copies of the Rider's Spear. Then lastly, for possessions, we have our Rohirrim Bow. And that's, again, you can just give Eomer an extra strength +1, or you can pass this around to the different people and exert them and discard. Oh, you can't pass it around, excuse me, because it's exert and discard this possession. So it's a one-time use, but one-time use you can wound a minion during the archery phase. So that is nice. Or you can just set it on Eomer and get another strength +1, or whoever you want to have the extra strength +1 on. Because again, this is a ranged weapon. These are hand weapons, so you can bear both of those at the same time. So you could add this on to your Eomer stack if you wanted to. All right. Oh, one more possession, guys. Sorry. And this actually is a fellowship block one. We do have the Frying Pan. Again, more defense against orcs and or swarm. Again, your hobbits, you don't really need their vitality. So exerting a hobbit to wound an orc can be very strong. So that is our other possession that we have. And of course, that's probably going primarily on your ring bearer. Give Frodo a little extra vitality, extra strength boost, and then allow him to use his vitality to do useful stuff in certain matchups. So that is our last possession. All right, next, moving on to our events. no surprises here. We have 4 copies of Simbelmyne. Just an absolute beautiful card, beautiful foil. Very expensive and very sought after, despite the fact that it really only goes in this one deck. You know, the kind of standard Rohan Men deck, you're going to always want 4 copies of this, but that alone, I think, has made it be popular enough that it continues to go up in value. And, you know, it's just an example of a beautiful Lord of the Rings card. So we play a full play set of those. And again, just the detail on that for people who are not familiar with the effect. Spot 2 Rohan men or 1 Valiant man to play a Rohan character or Rohan possession from your draw deck. So just breaking that down for you guys in simple terms, the Valiant part is not really going to come into play here unless you have your Eowyn down. She's actually your only Valiant man, which is ironic because, as you guys know, she's not a man. That's kind of the whole joke of how she killed the Witch King. But she is in this game a man, companion man, because it's just referring to the race, of course. But the other thing that I think is a bit of a joke is the fact that this bad boy is not Valiant. Eomer, the 3rd Marshal of Riddermark, is actually not a Valiant man. So, not that it matters, because you're typically going to have 2 guys down unless something really weird happened, like you killed an elite rider before you played any other thing. It'd be next to impossible to not meet that spotting requirement. Again, these guys are technically even Rohan men, because they're Rohan and they're men. So those still count even, because it doesn't say Rohan men companion, it just says Rohan men. So really don't have to worry about the spotting requirement. That was a lot of rambling to tell you that. But then the next part is play a character or possession from your draw deck. Again, the key thing to remember about characters is these guys, again, are characters. You can get your allies from your deck if you want to, but primarily what you're going for to start out is the possessions. You know, you're going, as I said, going for that Firefoot, going for that Eomer's Spear. That's usually your 2 first targets. But then after that, you're going for whatever you need to just complete the puzzles of your characters with horses. If you need a Brego to get an extra healing, you grab that. If you need to get more characters out, of course, you grab your Eowyn. If you're going to go up to 6 companions, make sure you grab that always. That's another good tip to have, is don't let yourself get NK'd. You cannot let Eomer die, so definitely grab this if you're planning on going up to 6. So that's Simbelmyne, or I should say, guys, the correct pronunciation on this, I've been advised, is Simbelmyne, is actually how you say that, but good luck ever remembering that that's the right way to say it, because that's not phonetic at all. But if you watch the extended edition, that's how Theoden mentions the name of the flower. So another weird trivia for you. I think I might have mentioned that once, but very opportune time to say that again. So next, we just have 2 small pumps in here. Again, these are fantastic. This reminds me a lot of Servant of the Secret Fire in the fact that you can make any, it's not just Gandalf, it's spot Gandalf to make any companion have this. So it's a similar concept where it's spot strength +1 for each Rohan men. So it's kind of like spot 3 Rohan men, because it's the limit 3. Spot 3 Rohan men to make any unbound companion strength +3. So the idea there is you can use this as needed on anyone. Again, quite likely you're using it on a Rohan man anyway, but you can use it on Aragorn, Legolas, Sam, whoever you need to. Excuse me, not Sam, he's ringbound. But basically anyone except for your ring bearer or Sam meets that unbound companion criteria, which literally means, again, just to loop that back into our Frodo, who gets play a ring-bound companion to remove a burden. That can be very good in some decks, but in this deck, we're literally just playing Sam to get 1 burden removed. So that's as minuscule of an effect as it is, but it's still worthwhile just to get that burden off. Then moving into our conditions to round out the deck, we do have 3 full copies of Arrow-slits. You have to keep an eye on this because this can be a little bit clunky. What this does, though, is this discards a possession, and possession removal is very few and far between typically. But because this is unique, I always thought this should not have been a unique card, but it is a unique card, so you can only ever have one of these down. So make sure that if you're getting duplicates of this, you are discarding them out of your hand and not letting them clog up. You know, for stuff like Uruk-hai where they have possessions on them, obviously you can use the Arrow-slits to get rid of their possessions. I think that was one of the big uses at the time, was Uruk trackers have a sword that prevents them from taking any wounds, which obviously does not bode well for your horses where you're trying to exert them. Although I'd have to look at the rules interactions on that to be sure. But either way, you can play these and discard them to discard a possession or machine. Machine is going to become relevant like in King, but for now it's usually just discard a possession. And like I said, keep an eye on the uniqueness because you're playing 3 of that. What else for discarding that is very good is the Fortress Never Fallen. You do have 2 of these, but you're always going to, you're always going to get a lot of use out of this. So how this works is each time you win a skirmish, you get a token on this card. And then during the regroup phase, you can discard a token for each, you can discard the condition to discard a shadow condition for each token on it. So you build up the tokens, and then it kind of becomes like a one-sided sleep carriage dress where you just say, hey, I'm taking out all your conditions because I've got 3 or 4 Rohan tokens on this card. So that's why it's nice to have 2 of these, because you can use one earlier in the game, use it and discard it, replace it, stack those tokens again, use it and discard it. So that is very potent condition removal. Obviously, the only downside is you have to win a skirmish, but the plus side is every skirmish you win gives you an additional condition to discard. And lastly, we have 2 more, but last card that we have here, the Thundering Host. This is a fantastic card because these you can just put down. It's a support area condition. So anytime you get extras of these, it's non-unique, it's a support area condition, just throw it down to your support area. But it has this fantastic effect of it doubles as a pump and as a healing. If your man is mounted, you can discard it to get strength +3 and heal that man if out of planes. So definitely good to wait until you're out of planes to use these, because then you can actually get a heal out of it in addition to a pump. But that's what's nice, because they're conditions. You just throw them down, sit them in your support area, and then you're good to go for when you need them. And then the very last card, is We Left None Alive. So again, this is just another pump effect, but just passively can gain tokens here. So this is the, discard this condition or remove a token from here to make a Rohan man skirmishing an exhausted minion strength +2. So it's very specific, but basically when you play it, you get 2 tokens. So kind of twice per game, you get to get a +2 pump against an exhausted minion. And it's just really nice to be able to do that when you absolutely need it, to pull out a win in a skirmish. So that's We Left None Alive. So that rounds out the deck. Now, I do want to go over the sight path with you guys, because if there's ever been a sight path that favors a specific fellowship, it's the Tower's sight path for the Rohan men. And you'll see what I mean here in a moment. So starting off, we do have the card that lets us pull that single Legolas from our deck, the Eastemnet Gullies, for our starting sight. That's not critical, but again, why not take him if you can? Then for our second sight, this is just planes, which is important, as we were talking about. But other than that, not a big deal. It's just you get to add one. So that's more of like the shadow sight, but kind of just a generic shadow sight. So not a whole lot going on there other than that it's a plains. Then the stables is where it starts to get favorable for the Rohan man. Literally lets you play a mount from your draw deck, limit once per turn. So no matter what, you're going to take a mount out. You hopefully might already have Firefoot by then, but use that to get yourself a Brego or a rider's mount for sure. So that's really nice. And I just love this card, just absolutely beautiful. You got Legolas with the horse here in the foreground, and then you got the light shining in foil on the top. That's one of the best looking sights. Then we have the Westemnet Hills. So again, it's a plains. And in terms of favoring Rohan, it is when you move to this, heal each mounted companion. So everyone who has a horse gets a free heal off of this, and it's a plains for your Thundering Host. So very, very favorable, especially because right before it, you would get to play a mount, and so obviously then you're going to be mounted. So if you can trail your opponent with Rohan, meaning that they go first and you get to play out all the sites, it's very good. You just got to make sure that at some point you do overtake them, because this site path is just so good for you. Deep of Helm, that's just in here for Uruk-hai. Great Hall, this again, hugely favorable for Rohan. Each Rohan ally may participate in archery, fire, and skirmishes. So I think I told you those guys were home 4, so they can always skirmish at the Westemnet Hills just because that's site 4. But then also they can skirmish at site 6, the Great Hall, per the text on the Great Hall. Then the King's Room, again, just so many things are we seeing Rohan Companion on here. So this one is incredibly biased. When the Fellowship moves to the King's Room without a Rohan Companion, each Unbound Companion must exert. So that will probably make your opponent exert all of their characters, and then you don't have to exert anyone. So that is very, very strong. Then site 8, discard all allies. Again, you've got a couple allies, but again, I think you're more concerned about if your opponent was doing something degenerate with them. And then at this point, hopefully you're overtaking your opponent anyway, and you're onto their sites. This one's not, certainly not critical. And then 9 is also just a site for your shadow, which is to play Saruman. This championship deck played Saruman in their Uruk-hai deck. So we'll look at that defense at some point, but just wanted to look at the free people's side of this deck and show you guys that. So have really appreciated showing you guys this deck. I know you guys love the championship decks. I know you guys love the all foil stuff. So can't not show this ring, right? So I just want to thank you for listening. And while I lay out here some of the beautiful foils here, who's going to get the last spot? I think these are all definite beautiful cards here that we have to feature. Let's do another horse. This is a big horse deck, so let's go ahead and show that off, and that'll be our thumbnail here, is showing off all the Rohan stuff here. Let's see if I can get a little better light on that Eomer. I don't know if I can or not, but well, thanks for watching, guys. Really appreciate all the views, all the likes. Oh, definitely, I've been told I should say this. I'm really bad at it. Please subscribe to our channel. If you're enjoying these videos, definitely want to make sure that people are subscribing and getting notified about these new videos. Really appreciate all the comments, all the love from the community, though, and having a lot of fun doing this. So thanks for watching.